Story is a fascinating look at who Joe Biden is and the role he's come to play as vice president. When you think of that Uncle Joe caricature, it does raise the question, is he getting the respect he deserves? Will he ever? Or is that just one of the indignities that comes with being the Veep? Well, back with me to talk about all this at the table, we have MSNBC political analyst Michael Steele, April Ryan with American Urban Radio Networks, and BuzzFeed's Evan McMorris-Santoro. So that contrast between Biden and Dick Cheney, and I think you could say they're both sort of, Dick Cheney obviously a very consequential vice president, no matter what you think of what he did. Joe Biden, I think, clearly a consequential vice president, but that contrast in how they operate, where Cheney sort of set up his own corner in the White House, he had his own people, and a lot of that was Bush let him do that, frankly, at the beginning, and then sort of realized what he did. But the Biden relationship just seems very different. This is a much different model.
That's true. I mean, and we have heard of some disagreements between Biden and Obama, right? I don't want to think about like Afghanistan.
Bin Laden,
Biden,
right? He wasn't for the Bin Laden mission.
But all those disagreements and all those things that happen get put into a package of the president listening to a bunch of different ideas and Biden sort of going and taking whatever Obama decides and running with it. It's very different than with Cheney and Bush. Whenever they had any sort of fracture at all, I'm thinking about like Scooter Libby, for example. It was viewed as a huge deal, a huge rift in the White House. Which it's not that like these two guys have see down the middle on every issue. It's just like when they don't, it doesn't become a problem for the White House.
There's a passage in here, too. There's a passage where apparently Biden and Obama were I think they're having lunch together or something, and they both sort of said to each other, gee, Biden was sort of like, I can't believe we're becoming friends. And Obama says, me neither. They seem to have developed a relationship that maybe wasn't there at the beginning.
There was a relationship there, enough for the president to bring in a team of rivals to say, okay, yes, we've had this fracture or this problem on, running for office together, but now let's come together because you are this man who has all of this wealth of knowledge on the Hill, and you've been here for so long in Washington, and also your foreign policy on the Hill as well. But from the very beginning, this White House has started off with Joe Biden as a partnership. He's been engaged from everything from day on, to include with the Recovery Act. Most recently, he worked on the issue with the schools, the school study that just came out. He worked on the budget. Yes, the president and the vice president have lunch every week to talk over things, and they talk all the time. So what we're seeing is something that's genuine. It's not the partnership that the Cheney Bush people had, but this is a friendship. This is a partnership. They come together with families. They come together on a host of issues. So they are in conjunction in a lot of ways.
Well, in this article, they talked to Rahm Emanuel, the first chief of staff for President Obama, out in Chicago now, obviously. Rahm Emanuel was asked, though, in the article about the relationship. He said the vice president asked for one thing, that he could always comment, would never be shut down, and he'd be the last guy in the room to talk to him, and the president lived up to that commitment. First of all, that sounds like three things to me, not one thing. But Rahm Emanuel says, I guess it's a tribute to Biden. But so apparently he's gotten the three things that he asked for. But Michael, I'm curious because you've been a lieutenant governor, and these relationships between vice president, president, lieutenant governor, governor, so much of it seems always has to do with like, what does the governor, what does the president let you do? What do he deputize you to do?
That's the key thing. You're only as effective as the governor or the president allows you to be.
Exactly.
So to the extent that you are able to go out and carve out a space for yourself, Dick Cheney was able to do it because the president allowed him to do it. Now,
elder statesman too.
Elder statesman, yeah, exactly. Same with Biden. When I was lieutenant governor, I was able to do the things as Bob Ehrlich said, okay, I trust you to do these things, keeping in mind that you're doing them for the governor or the president. You're not doing them for yourselves. And that's the big difference, I think, that you've seen in the modern relationship between the vice president and the president, is that the vice president really is not just a cheerleader for the chief executive, but also an effective arbiter on issues, policies, and the like. And it makes a big difference in the relationship long term.
How much of it, I wonder, too, in terms of, there was the assumption when Joe Biden was added to the ticket in 2008 when they got elected. The assumption was this is sort of the old graybeard who's on that. He's never going to run for president of his own. He was 65 when he was elected in 2008. He'll be too old then, so he gets to just focus on being vice president. The fact that Joe Biden clearly, we can talk in a minute about whether there's a path for him at all, but the fact that he clearly is interested in running in 2016, I think that surprised some people, and has that created some tension within the White House at all?
Well, why is everybody took a breath and then just kind of look over here?
You're the White House correspondent.
Oh, yes, I am. And I will take it.
Can you feel the tension when you're there?
Well, let me say this. No, well, I told Evan something off camera. I can't say it, but let me.
Oh, come on.
Well, I will say this. Some of the headliners that we think will be headliners for office, when they are around one another for the camera, they're okay. But when the cameras are not there, they're like, whatever. You know, you can feel the tension as it's arising that there are possibilities that we could be rivals against one another. But if you're asking the people who are in the White House right now, they try to laugh it off. And it's like, you know, I made a joke with someone yesterday. I said, so what is the president saying? My name is Barack Obama. My name is Bennett, and I'm not in it, or something. They kind of laugh because he really has a major issue. He's got this man he considers a partner who was also there when they took down Osama bin Laden. He's also he has this woman who was his woman of diplomacy who was there when he took down Osama bin Laden. He's got to make a big choice. If either one.
We should say the president was interviewed for this New Yorker article, and he sort of sidestepped it, the question of a Biden and Hillary by saying they both have to decide whether they want to suffer the indignity of a campaign.
Yeah, and I'm not sure tension aside, many of Obama's campaign architects have lined up behind Hillary already. Not to mention many of the senators and other people that are on Obama's side.
How is that going over with Biden, do you think? Did he expect it would be different? Did he expect...
I don't know exactly. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't have a lot of keys into the inner workings of Joe Biden's brain, other than when he, other than when he talks.
We all wish we did.
When he talks, it sort of all comes out. I mean, he's a very open talker, right?
We love it.
But I do think that, look, if you're a guy like Joe Biden who has been in Washington and in power for as long as he has and sort of steadily climbed up, I mean, he's not in charge of foreign policy stuff because they wanted to just give him a shot at it. He was head of the Foreign Relations Committee. He's long experience with this kind of thing. I think that probably there has to be, you know, what's the story? Like everybody who's elected wants to run for president. I mean, I think it's probably got to be tough to see people who helped you get into the White House trying to help somebody else get into the White House the next time.
How much is that? Loyal.
Yeah. What do you make of it?
He's been loyal, and I think it's going to be very hard for the president ultimately to do the Hillary dance and kind of look over at Biden standing by himself. I think the president's probably going to take the smart tack and stay far as away from this as possible and hope that, you know, surrogates and others will go to Biden and say, don't run.
Whoever the nominee is when he will jump
in. Exactly. But I think at the end of the day, loyalty counts for something, and Biden strikes me as someone who values that in many respects, because it is a difficult job to be the vice president to a president like Barack Obama, in the sense that, you know, he's a bigger-than-life figure, and, you know, you kind of wait and see what crumbs you get. This vice president has been empowered in many ways and has on a number of occasions saved the president's, you know, a little bit too on some issues.
Got ahead of him a couple of
He's gotten ahead of him, but even that orchestration worked to the president's benefit on gay marriage, for example. When Biden, and I still believe that there was more coordination to that than you know, we like to give.
Well, you're the only one who thinks that, man. If that's what you think. I mean, the White House.
Well,
people were not happy with that.
They may not have been happy about the timing and everything, but Biden's instincts served the president best in that instant, and that's the thing that I think really defines the relationship, is that Biden's instincts have worked well for this president on a number of issues.
So we got to squeeze a break in here. We have a little bit more on this I want to get to when we come back, and that is just looking at this from the standpoint of Joe Biden, a guy who's clearly interested in running for president of his own in 2016. Is there an opening where Joe Biden could get that dream could come true for him, or is he completely shut out by Hillary? We're going to pick that up when we come back.